If you're looking for a way to complicate your life and saturate it with meaningless challenges and obstructions that could possibly only have detrimentally negative consequences on your life, there might not be a better path than to strive for a higher education in the science of history. Let me explain. Hey, I'm Thomas. If you look at the date of my video released previously to this one, you might get surprised by the absolute cricket-ridden graveyard this channel has become. The reason for this is a simple one, but deep enough for me to come back to this brainchild of mine to warn anyone even remotely considering the study of history. You see, I finally got my bachelor's degree when I graduated in June this year. The previous months before, I took a step back from the channel, obviously so I could study. The following months, however, were a haze of senseless reflection and numb realization of the theoretical prison I've locked myself into and swallowed the keys. So, how does one go about explaining this? Firstly, your mileage may vary. I have enrolled into a university that had the best education focus on history in the country, but the fact being that the university itself is not rated very high on the ladder of other universities on the European continent might just explain the entirety of my struggle. I am also speaking for the people looking to focus on research, rather than to more easily find employment in an archive or a museum, which by the way in some cases you don't need a degree for. However, I do think I've stumbled onto a problem that is actively plaguing the study of not only history, but the humanities in their entirety. So what, who, and why is a historian? The scientific method for historical research has been warping and changing throughout the whole period as hairless mammals could bang rocks together to create figures of each other's maternal relatives. From documenting battles that had completely made up numbers of soldiers to fictitious grandiose and lavish praise of the most dubious of rulers, sources being, I made it all up, to this day, thankfully, being more nuanced. Without me using any official definitions, a historian as a researcher is a scientist focused on uncovering the unknown, false or forgotten aspects of people, things, places, and events of the past. They do this by the acquiring of archived documents, photos, items, paintings, diaries, books and such, translating them or having them translated if needed, reading and interpreting them, and finally connecting this new study to an already established historical narrative or creating a new one if such is the case. If the second brings no desired information or results, you repeat the first step, and if the first step has also failed, you either look someplace else or wait for the lazy archaeologist to finally finish up that report that you've been waiting for months. The result of this work could contribute to better understanding of human behavior, of saving and keeping of traditions and values, or to the betterment of education of upcoming generations. Each of these steps are equally important to the result and can vary in difficulty and intensity. However, there is also a step missing from this that is being taken as granted for the seasoned historians out there, but crucial for the ones aspiring to be such experts. And that is information itself. You see, for the research to start, you must have an entry point, a question, a curiosity, a precise goal you're aiming at, and a problem you'd like an answer to. And you can't ask questions about the topic that you don't know anything about other than, what is it? Where did it come from, or why? Which is also what a historian can research, but I digress. For you to be able to even see a crack in the walls of our knowledge of the past, you must know the past. You study it. Obviously meaning the university student reads, listens to lectures, and is later on examined whether he is adequately proficient in the basic events, people, and/or cultures of the times gone by. This is, of course, achieved by the miraculous powers humans possess, called memory. Later on, the student has passed the hidden first step and is knowledgeable enough to start learning about how one such historian even conducts research. This step, however, was also as important as all the other ones coming after. If one of these is outweighing the other in importance, as in one is being forcefully uplifted above the others for an arbitrary reason, the result of the research becomes distorted, invalid, or of course non-existent. To bring a long story short, about 90% of my time while studying history was only and exclusively memorizing. Pomodoro techniques, active recall, flashcards, chunking, dopamine detoxing just to look at a page again, acronyms, self-flagellation, you name it. This might not come as a complete surprise or even a point of contention for people studying STEM. For example, I do want my doctor performing open heart surgery on me to know the names of all my bones in my foot from memory. I do want my engineer constructing the bridge headed to my university to know precisely the conversion of 7.25 inches to meters from the top of his head. Of course, the surgeon has to specifically be a cardiothoracic surgeon, and the engineer specifically structural or a civic one. Still, it is strange and alarming for these individuals to not have the knowledge to succeed in the named tasks. However, this is not the case in the study of history, or to my knowledge these days, to humanities as a whole. One would think you'd be taught the actual process of acquiring the information for yourself, where to look for data, how to filter it, how to view it critically and with no bias, and finally process it correctly. But that was not so in my case. You are constantly bombarded by information, dates, names, events, having to recall completely banal data inefficiently as opposed to having a basis on which to build by one's own accord and each to his need. This is, of course, a sign of an inefficient, badly managed education system and should not be expected in every institution of higher learning. If after the first, maybe the second year, all you do is as I did, leave, you're wasting your time. This first issue brings us into the next step on how universities can fail. Specialization. Specialization is an understandable and actually genius manner of behavior we exhibit as a species. We can construct monumental buildings and self-driving cars collectively. Yet individually we cannot even construct a computer chip or find, mine and transport given minerals needed for the chip. We diversify, specialize and then strive to perfect. A historian could be focused on many things. Medieval times, interwar period, birth of Christianity, Thatcherism, the domestication of pigs or the technological progress of vibrators. This is only a thought I had recently that I haven't found anywhere else, so do let me know if this is an already established point of view. There isn't an unlimited number of aspects one studying STEM could focus on. You have chemists, eye doctors, aerodynamics engineers, AI developers, pathologists. The number of possible occupations and points of focus is numerous, but not infinite. I am yet to find the end to the possibilities of the study of humanities, and especially for history. For example, if you can find casting off powder, the death of the powdered wig and the birth of British sartorial modernity as a reasonable enough point of study, the possibilities indeed are endless. The negative effect of this being true is the fact that I've experienced one of my professors having no idea how Lenin, one of the most important people to have lived even to this day, died, arguing that they focus on the royal families of Central Europe in the 18th century. Therefore, that's not in their field of specialization and not relevant information. If you are to succeed in finding a niche small enough that no one can oppose you in it, like my professor here, you've essentially found yourself a career while possibly not contributing anything to the world at all. However, I do agree with the professor that information you have at your disposal should also be limited, because the other steps are in turn neglected. You know way more than you can process. And due to that, you have so-called New Age historians advocating for the Holocaust not happening due to their own misdirected research. Their skills are entirely based on effective memorization and the ability to recall information as a living and breathing databank, and not perceiving it from a critical viewpoint, or any viewpoint for that matter. Yes, you can have brilliant modern-day historians such as Sarah Payne or Raymond Ibrahim, just to not name the numerous British ones. As I've said earlier, your mileage may vary, and you will see Reddit posts that I've stumbled on while researching this video saying that studying basically any science in the humanities will develop your critical thinking, research, or deducting skills, debating, mental capabilities, and so on. But in my opinion, these are outliers that have understood which path to take way before enrolling in the university. Their skills were already developed, they were talented enough to have a great head start, and some memorization on the side of developing their own cognitive skills was no issue to them. For those destined to be dependent on the curriculum to teach them what questions to ask, which way to conduct research, or how to perceive data for themselves, failure to be even remotely useful is certain. And finally, the reason why I think this is happening is collective narrative. The first need to educate in the Western world in the form of universities came from Christianity. The administration of the church needed educated scholars that can write information down, work with it, and store it efficiently for a possible use later. From ordinary procedures such as tax collection to more niche tasks like education itself. The studies were focused on Latin and Greek philosophy, theology, mathematics, music, poetry. People coming out of these institutions were living, breathing incarnation of what the church considered to be an educated follower of Christ. I myself am a victim of the uneducated view of the medieval people, as I stated in my previous videos. I thought all of these people were just tyrannical pig farmers with a messiah complex. These students and monks were united in the thinking that God creating the universe does not inherently mean we are not here to uncover and understand it. The study of nature and philosophy and the ambition to pursue the truth was therefore a way of honoring God. If we were to oversimplify this and look at it later in time, this thought transitioned into having the human at the center as opposed to God. Humanism. If one can find a way to make the lives of people better with science, be it humanities or STEM, by achieving progress in medicine or with new technological inventions of the 19th century, for example, there is no better way to gain meaning in life than to enroll in a university and help this endeavor. This is the view that some of the best universities in the world still hold, and there is therefore no wonder why they're still at the top, although it is arguable what you mean by the top. A new uniting narrative has emerged in a time which is not entirely clear to me. You see, there's nothing forbidding one entering the sciences with the goal of financial gain. The end result is just the same, the expansion of knowledge of the entire human race, but that can also serve the individual with more than a good feeling or public praise. You can make a lucrative career out of research and publishing. And to play the devil's advocate, I'd like my doctors who study most of their life to be well paid, same as engineers and researchers. To come back to my experience of studying history, this was, however, so extremely prevalent to the case it was insulting. There are many ways a university generates money. Money is needed for everyday continuation of many aspects of our lives and the lives of our inventions. From my experience, the profit of universities and subsequently their faculties is dictated by two factors: the research of each member of the faculty and by the number of students enrolling. In the case of the number of students, two very interesting situations can occur. By default, a professor may have just enough students to be fully occupied both in their research and in their duties as a teacher. However, if the class consisted of 100 high school graduates addicted to Adderall, the balancing of research and lecturing results in both losing on their quality due to overload. Now, if they were to have 7 students, the number is low enough to be insignificant to the financing of the faculty, which makes the faculty pay no attention to contributing to the betterment of the curriculum or attend to the needs of the students endeavoring on their first research. They then choose to just focus on their own work, which of course can be incredibly specialized as to be almost worthless but lucrative, as could be said, for example, of liberal arts. Therefore, TLDR, one striving for that degree in history is stuck in the loop of needlessly rehearsing words in a book written by the same person that was supposed to give you a lecture about it, finish the semester and do it again, acquiring no actual knowledge on how to perform the steps a historian is supposed to take in the first place in order to conduct research. If one is to pass this step somehow, he then can choose between taking the highly competitive space of actually beneficial historical research, which contributes to society, or just heavily specialize in something absurd like the study of the toilet meetings of former President Lyndon B. Johnson, so you could publish and generate profit for yourself and for the university. I would love to hear your experience and opinions in the comments, by the way, because I have seen this happen in sociology, philosophy, political science, and even psychology. I do admit this is anecdotal evidence given to me by my peers in the said sciences, but my warning to this situation still stands. If this was to be the main way a higher education institution was to be conducted, the result would yield a minimal number of people knowledgeable enough to actually be proficient in their science, but it would be efficient enough for the institution to live to see another day and to repeat the process again. How is it possible, then, that such modern-day historians, psychologists, or any other scientists come to be in the modern world at all? Well, to give credit where credit is due, universities are institutions that do offer other means of personal development. They enclose you in an environment that is perfectly fit for you to develop your mental skills and capabilities. One can also focus entirely on his studies and education thanks to scholarships and other financial aids without being dependent on their own financial security. I also do admit this argument fails to hold any weight if you propose that the individual has his education and his personal development in his own hands and will be rewarded by his own merit alone. Hence why we do have successful doctors and historians who knew what skills to develop and attend to. But that's exactly why I made this video. My dear viewer, if you heard all I've said and you've been warned, yet you still insist on going through this abomination anyway, what do you do? Well, in my case, I was asked bluntly by my thesis supervisor how I will conduct my research for the thesis. My answer being, I have no idea. You actually haven't taught me anything about this at all. I was therefore recommended to study this process by trial and error alone. I have the perfect environment, the ideal set of colleagues at hand, the proficient enough tools in the form of AI, internet as a whole, and a fresh, young mind. So, I did, and I passed. After this long break I took from making videos and actually enjoying life, I can finally say as a closing point, why bother then? By merit alone, is not one left to fend for his own education? Can one not fix this problem I've proposed on the part of the universities by using modern technologies available to him without the need for higher education? Why bother having bottomless information on the peasant uprisings of medieval Central Europe memorized when you can conduct efficient research within 10 minutes, anytime and anywhere on your phone? Why bother with an institution that can no longer provide you with something you can't get anywhere else? You can find a community in your family, workplace, a dog park. You can expand your knowledge with AI, illegally downloading books on the internet, speaking to your more well-read peers and colleagues. You can help develop society in ways I, a history major, cannot even conceive of. You can do all of this without this kind of education. If you are not experiencing anything I've said in this video, all the luck to you on this journey. The future looks bright. Also, the United Kingdom has some of the best education of history. You can prevent anything of this happening by just studying there. Other than that, my dear viewer, do not bother. History and humanities conducted in this manner are dead and meaningless. Thank you for watching. Huge thank you goes to my friends who have supported me the entire time I've been making videos, and to the people in our History Junk Discord who've been patiently waiting for the next upload. Link to the Discord is in the description. I will continue in my studies for the Masters, however I do want to backseat it a little bit due to, all the information mentioned above. Seeing my older videos, I also do admit I've expanded my knowledge considerably, so feel welcome to disregard whatever nonsense this doofus posted on this channel prior to his disappearance. More vids incoming. Bye!